Good God, the things we just don't know for sure. We do not know where or when the peanut butter and jelly sandwich was invented. We do not know where or when London dry gin and vermouth were first paired to create what the author of Charlotte's Web and Stuart Little, Elwyn Brooks, better known as E.B. White, called the elixir of quietude, the classic dry martini. We do not know why all the clocks in the movie Pulp Fiction are stuck on 4:20. Neither do we know why the English Speaker of the House of Commons is called the Speaker, given that he or she is not officially allowed to speak. Here's another thing we do not know for sure. We do not know exactly where or when the two towering geniuses of late 18th century music, Joseph Haydn and Wolfgang Mozart, met. Here is what we do know. We know that Mozart and Haydn were well aware of each other's existence long before they met. We can safely assume that when they did meet, they were unfailingly polite to each other, and that everyone in the room with them had their eyes planted on them. And we know that that event, their meeting, took place somewhere in the city of Vienna sometime in December of 1781, 7 months after Mozart left the service of Archbishop Hieronymus von Colloredo of Salzburg with a kick on my arse, as Mozart told it. In December of 1781, Mozart was 25 years old and Haydn was 49, almost twice Mozart's age. Their generational disparity was actually the least of their differences. As a child, Mozart had burst onto the European musical scene like a shooting star. Preternaturally gifted, he was famous across the continent by the time he was 8. He was feted by kings, kissed by queens and princesses, including the 7-year-old Marie Antoinette, and petted by an empress, Maria Theresa. As a musician, Mozart grew up virtually free of self-doubt. He composed very quickly and was a flamboyant keyboard virtuoso. He was intense and could be moody. He loved word games, and if he were alive today, I've no doubt that Mozart would be a high-end crossword puzzle and Scrabble aficionado. He was a profligate spender, the nattiest of dressers, and a big-time party animal. And despite his anger at having been exploited for so long by those around him, Mozart was, at the time he met Haydn, bursting with energy and gusto and passion, because having settled permanently in Vienna a few months before, he was free at last, free from the oppression of his father and Archbishop von Colloredo of Salzburg, free to build a life and career in Vienna, the hippest, wealthiest, and most fun-loving city in the German-speaking world. Haydn's life and personality could not have been more different. He began life humbly in a swampy little Austrian village near the border with Hungary. Haydn's youthful talent as a singer took him to Vienna's St. Stephen's Cathedral, where he became a choir boy at the age of 8. When his voice changed, he was unceremoniously kicked out into the streets. Nice. Slowly, with incredible patience and living in the deepest poverty, Haydn taught himself to compose while earning a pittance giving lessons and playing the violin in dance bands. I would suggest that Joseph Haydn, along with Julia Child, Anna Mary Robertson, better known as Grandma Moses, and Colonel Harlan Sanders, who used his first Social Security check to launch Kentucky Fried Chicken when he was 65 years old. Along with these folks, Haydn was one of the great late bloomers in history. The cliche holds true. If Haydn, like Mozart, had died at the age of 35, not a single one of the works by which we know him today would have been composed. At the time Mozart met him, Haydn was an old-style court musician employed by a wealthy Hungarian family. He was a relatively slow and deliberate composer and a calm, thrifty, and eminently practical man. Haydn was the least controversial and most beloved of men. His peaceful temperament and kindness led the musicians who worked for him to call him Papa. They were two very different men, Mozart and Haydn. And while it is true that they saw each other but occasionally, it is also true that they became, spiritually, the best of friends. It was a friendship founded on their deep mutual respect for each other as musicians. In early 1782, soon after they first met, Mozart and Haydn began attending together what were called chamber music parties. Such parties, during which attendees read through chamber music for the entertainment of the other guests, were a standard Viennese amusement, a sort of 18th century jam session, if you will. Just such a chamber music party was hosted by an English composer then living in Vienna, a gentleman named Stephen Storace. One of the guests at the party was an Irish tenor by the name of Michael Kelly. Well, bless him, this Mr. Kelly wrote about this particular party in his memoirs, and now I quote, "Stephen Storace gave a quartet party. The players were tolerable. Not one of them excelled on the instrument he played, but there was a little musical experience among them, which I dare say will be acknowledged when I name them. The first violin, Haydn. Second violin, Baron Karl Ditters von Dittersdorf. Violoncello, Johann Baptist van Hall. Viola, Mozart. I was there, and a greater treat or more remarkable one cannot be imagined," unquote. Oh, to have been a fly on the wall with an iPhone. Okay, a very large fly with opposable thumbs, but you get the point. It was at just such a chamber music party in 1782 that Mozart had the opportunity to play through 6 brand new string quartets by Haydn. Quartets that were published together as Haydn's Opus 33.